Hello, Dr. Joe here. So what you're seeing on your screen there is pork meat being chopped up by a butcher, and this is now followed by roasted beef, something that is loved by meat eaters. And then of course, come the summer months, barbecues are a commonplace. So all of that is unprocessed red meat. Now, let's talk about processed meat. So salamis are commonplace, and that's what salamis you've seen there. And more salamis being placed on a pizza base. So these are processed meat. And of course, you cannot be talking about processed meat without mentioning bacon, which is also very popular. So, what do all of these meats have in common? That is the subject of today's video. Let's have a little chat about what I have in store for you regarding this.
Yes, today's video is about a new research paper that was published recently, and talking about, the consumption of unprocessed red meat like the beef and the pork that you saw earlier on, as well as processed meat, like the chorizos, the salamis, chorizos, pepperonis, the sausages, the hot dogs, the bacons, and their association with heart disease. So it's a very nice paper that I felt I needed to share with you guys. Now, the findings of this very research paper are not entirely novel. However, the way this research was performed is quite unique. I don't think the approach has been used previously, as far as I can tell. And that's the reason why I picked this paper, and I felt you needed to hear about it. Okay, now something else that's going to happen in this video, I'm going to share with you a food for thought towards the end of the video, and I will appreciate it if you could examine my food for thought and let me know what your opinion is regarding my food for thought towards the end of the video. So please watch the entire video, and you'll see what I have to say. I think it's hair-raising. So we've got a lot to get through. However, just a quick plug about my book on managing high blood pressure with lifestyle approach. Links to get a book right below this very video. So, we've got a lot to get through. Let's get started.
So, is regular red meat consumption a problem worth thinking about? Well, that's what we're going to be looking at in this very presentation through the lens of a prospective study that was recently published. So, what was the idea behind this very study? Well, the study authors wanted to identify metabolomics that are associated with red meat consumption. Metabolomics simply refers to a complete set of metabolites that are present in a cell or, say, body fluid at that very point in time. The other thing they had in mind was they wanted to prove if there was a link between red meat consumption and heart attack risk. So very nice objectives. They're digging deeper into what actually happens when you consume red meat. So how do you go about a study like that? Well, the study authors took 92,246 individuals with a mean age of 56 years. They assessed their meat intake using a dietary questionnaire. What else they did? Well, they followed these study participants for an average of 8.7 years. What else happened in this very study that makes it exciting? Well, what they did was they assessed the complete set of metabolites in all the participants, and they grouped the metabolites that originated from processed meat consumption together. They did the same thing for the unprocessed red meat, looking at grouping the metabolites that originated from unprocessed meat consumption together. What else? Well, they went ahead and performed genetic analysis, and more importantly, and this is where rubber meets the road, they looked for an association between these metabolites that they found and heart disease. Okay, so that was the final thing that they did in this very study. So let's have a look at their results. Well, for a start, they identified 157 metabolites for unprocessed red meat. They also identified 142 metabolites for processed meat. What else they found? Well, in that period of the 8.7 years of the follow-up, there were 3,059 ischemic heart disease events during that period of the follow-up. What else? Well, for each weekly increase in meat serving, this showed an increase in heart attack risk. And when they qualitatively assessed this very risk increase, they discovered that each weekly increase in meat serving, that showed an 11% increase in ischemic heart disease risk for unprocessed red meat. What about for processed meat? Well, each weekly increase in meat serving, that resulted in a 60% increase in ischemic heart disease risk for the processed meat. All of these led the study authors to conclude, and I quote, "Our observational and genetic evidence imply that these metabolomic signatures are associated with an increased risk of ischemic heart disease." And if you're wondering where that study came from, well, it was published in the Journal of the American Heart Association with the title "Unprocessed Red Meat and Processed Meat Consumption, Plasma Metabolome and Risk of Ischemic Heart Disease, a prospective cohort study of UK Biobank."
And here are a few pointers in this very study. The first thing to note is that this is not a causal relationship. This is an observational study, so it doesn't necessarily establish a cause between red meat consumption and heart disease. But it is a correlation. And, we've had lots of correlations previously, and the more correlations we have, the more we begin to believe that maybe there is a causal relationship between meat consumption and heart disease. So that's the first thing. The other thing to note is that they are talking about regular meat consumption. So, the key word here is regular. If you're someone who eats red meat occasionally, then really, I don't think this should bother you much. But if you're a regular meat eater, and if you're eating a lot of it, then you really should pay attention to these very research findings. And now, time for my food for thought. And I have to say, I have been thinking about this a lot lately, what I'm about to share with you. And I'm going to illustrate what I'm about to share with you by way of some food examples. So the first one here is bananas. Next food here is celery. Next food here is some nice apples. Two different types of apples I've got here. What else? Well, I've got some nice mushrooms here for you. So here's the thing. You are going to find it difficult to see any research evidence suggesting that if you eat lots of apples, you're going to end up with heart disease. You are also going to find it difficult to see any scientific paper suggesting that if you eat celery, you could end up with a heart attack. Also, you're not going to see any scientific paper suggesting that consumption of bananas could lead to heart attacks. Likewise, for mushrooms, you're not going to find any scientific paper suggesting that if you eat mushrooms, you could end up with heart disease. Okay? So, these are all plants. These plants are actually good for your heart. The same cannot be said of meat, because over and over and over again, we keep finding research papers linking consumption of meat to heart disease. Why is that? Plenty of evidence. okay, you know, they don't prove causation, but when you have lots and lots and lots of correlations, you begin to wonder, what is going on? Could it be guilty? The metaphor today is like finding the same individual at the scene of different crimes. You got to wonder, could that individual have anything to do with those crimes? Could he be guilty? Something that will certainly cross your mind if that scenario were to arise at any point in time. So, like I said, I've been thinking about this lately because meat consumption has regularly been linked to heart disease over and over and over again. And it does make you wonder. And I need your opinion on this, please. Because plants tend to do differently. They perform differently to meat. So let me know what you think about what I've just said. I've thought about it and I thought I should share with you. And I will appreciate your own opinion regarding what I've just said. So hopefully you got some value from this very video. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. Please like the video. And also please share this video with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues. If you got any questions, any comments, in particular, you know, the comments that I'm asking for regarding my food for thought, please leave them down below. Guess what? I think that's about it for today. Until next time, well, this is Dr. Joe signing out.